Welcome into the Dynasty After Party. I am Michael Sicoli, joined in by Joel Wirth, as always, here to bring you guys with an amazing Dynasty mock draft today with 12 real people. So we get some no auto drafts that are silly. We're going to be breaking down all you need to know for your Dynasty leagues. We got Superflex in there. We got a little touch of IDP. Everything you want to know about where players are going. You want to know what the values are. We're going to bring it to you here today. How are you doing today, Joel? I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, definitely excited. Like we were just talking about off screen, just got back from the Fantasy Football Expo here in Canton, which was awesome. Great time. Weather did not hold out on us this year. It's been pretty good the last couple of years, but this year was pretty rough. But yeah, great time. Got to meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, and like Bob Lung, who puts this together, like he says it best. There's no trolls here, right? The trolls are 13-year-old kids in their mom's basement waiting for their chicken nuggets to get heated up. Those people don't get, they don't get to fly on their own. They don't get to rent hotels. So yeah, just awesome people, awesome time. Got to meet a ton of people, say hi to a ton of people. Yeah, just great time. Awesome.
13-year-olds
can't say enough.
And fantasy receipts I'll throw in there. But yeah,
they were supposedly here this week. I
know, I saw that. That's a whole other thing. But listen, the expo shows the best of the industry of what we're all doing this for. It's all a whole bunch of fun. I did last year. I wish I could have made this year. I'll be trying again next year. But we got a great show lined up today. At the very least, like I said, we're going to be doing a Dynasty mock draft with Superflex and a touch of IDP in there. But before we do that, Joel, we got real football back. I know we had the Hall of Fame game last week, but we got preseason football. And for everyone saying, hey, who cares? We care. We care. We were the Dynasty show here. All right, guys that have been stashing Ty Chandler for 365 days for no reason. Well, today they had a reason, or not today, but this week they felt like they had a reason because Ty Chandler looked fantastic out there. I think that's my number one takeaway from the preseason. And listen, they brought in Kareem Hunt pretty much the next day for a workout, so that's a whole other situation. But listen, Ty Chandler has a really good shot for the RB2 role in Minnesota and looked to be the part for that. But what I really want to ask you, Joel, we saw Ty Chandler get every touch right there, right? He got a ton of carries, he got a few catches, he did it all. Now, is that a sign of what Ty Chandler could be bringing to this offense with Madison? Or is it a sign of what they're going to give Madison in terms of a workload?
I'm going to say, just be careful reading too much into these early games, right? Because we could come out next weekend and it could be the Dwayne McBride show, just, in the same way that it was the Ty Chandler show. Just, they want to get these guys, they want to get them some reps, see what they can do. So it may be a case of Kevin O'Connell just want to say, okay, this is your game. Let's see what you can do. And, next weekend, it may be, like I said, maybe Dwayne McBride and maybe Alexander Madison. Maybe they want to get him some work. So don't read too much into this week. But, yeah, he definitely looked good. Like when we talked about Alexander Madison's job earlier, I said, I'm not sure that he's going to be the full-time back. And it looked like they've got some capable replacements behind him at least.
Yeah, it's something that's going to be worth watching. And you put it perfectly. We're not going to be jumping – well, we're not going to be overreacting to any of this in week one of the preseason. Like everyone, for example, talking about C.J. Stroud's poor day or Bryce Young's poor day. I don't even think Bryce Young looked bad. It's just the Panthers' offensive line got obliterated by Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson. Holy crap. But, yeah, we're not going to overreact to guys like C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young looking like rookies because that's what they are. And
they are rookies. Right.
Will Levis, believe it or not, Joel, these guys, they're young, they're rookies, and they got plenty of time to get some reps under the belt to really shine. Any other takeaways from preseason week one, or we don't want to overreact too soon?
I didn't have a whole lot of chance to watch much with the Expo going on. Did see a good bit of the Packer game, obviously, and
Aiden Reed looked good.
Jordan Love looked just perfectly fine. A few mistakes, but generally looked good. Yeah, not too much. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to catch too much of the action, but we'll get there as the week goes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A few other headlines to run through before we jump into our mock draft, and also want to bring up a few comments here. Thank you. What good to see you, Gator, as well. And I know you're in this chat in your draft as well, so I'm really excited to be drafting with you, man. And yeah, picks down under, man. I'm back. I'm back from Australia. Ryan bring up, you wouldn't be surprised if Kareem Hunt ends up back in Cleveland. Well, that is the second banner that I got lined up here. Kareem Hunt is a Saint. Nope, he's a Colt, and now he's not even a Viking because it felt like he just, after months of not having a visit, the man rattled off 3 in about a week. And he was basically a Saint. It was reported as such, and then the Colts swept in with an offer, and somehow he doesn't end up with any of these 3 teams as of now. So I'm just curious about how you reacted to this, and are you expecting Kareem Hunt to be reaching a deal? Neither of us are insiders in any way, but this was a lot of interest in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, the big picture thing here is like none of these guys have signed anything yet, right? We're a couple weeks into camp. We're our first, weekend of preseason games in, and Leonard Fournette doesn't have a deal. Dalvin Cook doesn't have a deal. Zeke Elliott doesn't have a deal. Kareem Hunt doesn't have a deal. None of these guys have signed deals, which is kind of really, you figure at least 1 or 2 of those guys would have signed deals at this point, but none of them have. So whether it's a case of them just holding out for more money or not wanting to go through training camp and just wanting to show up on day one, or the team's just not being interested. Like none of these guys had great years last year. So it may be just that the league is moving on. We'll see. We'll see how long this goes. But yeah, Kareem Hunt, again, he was just like the rest of those guys. He wasn't great last year, and he is aging. So, how much is he asking for? Yeah, that's the stuff we don't know, right? We don't know how much he's asking for. Yeah. Right. We don't know what they're willing to offer. If they're just offering a vet minimum deal, then maybe he's probably not going to take it. He's going to wait for something else. So yeah, the news was kind of all over the place, like a tennis match. It was just going back and forth. He's a Saint. Oh, he signed. No, he's not. He's visiting Indy. Now he's going to Minnesota. So yeah, crazy.
The top thing I want to get across with this, and it was my reaction when everyone thought he was going to be a Saint. We don't care. We don't care. To quote Mike Tomlin, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. We saw him fall off a cliff last year in terms of efficiency with Cleveland. And, he's at an age where when that happens, you don't bounce back from it. That's just a sign of things to come. So if Kareem Hunt ends up in New Orleans, I'm not worried about Kendre Miller down the line. No. I'm not worried about Jamal Williams even. I'm not worried about anybody because I don't think he's there much more to become competition. And I don't think he's better than any of the other guys that he's going to be signing with at this point. The Colts are interesting because you have a really unsettled backfield behind Jonathan Taylor, especially with the Zach Moss broken arm. But yeah, I'm not going to – I think people are going to react to it wherever he goes. Davante Adams picked up a scary leg injury, but it wasn't, quote, crazy serious, according to Josh McDaniels. Just the type of injury news I want to be noting around here. Don't need to spend too much time on it. Jonathan Taylor, though, came out about 20 minutes ago that Jonathan Taylor will be returning to camp this week, according to Shane Steichen, the head coach. So we don't know if that means – we're assuming that means no extension or anything. It means that he's going to be coming back to at least maybe he's playing through it. But that's good news, Joel. That's
for sure.
The first positive step in quite some time in this amazing saga.
Yeah, so the good news here is it's probably not a back problem, and it's probably not an ankle problem, and it's not any kind of imaginary issue that either side came up with. It's probably just a hold in as we expected. So yeah, as long as it's not an injury, I'm fine. They'll get in camp and he'll be fine.
Yep, and a couple other injuries to run through here. George Kittle was sidelined for a week with an abductor strain. Joe Mixon suffered a tweak today in practice. We don't know the specifics on that, but worth watching. Kendre Miller suffered a knee sprain, which sucks today against the Chiefs. Really sucks, and I hope it's not serious anyway. All these guys, no reason as of now to be expecting them to miss time into the regular season, but it's injuries worth monitoring, especially Joe Mixon, considering we don't know the severity of it yet. Well, it is 8:09, and we are perfectly lined up, Joel, here to jump right into the meat of the show, and that is a mock draft. Starting off with Austin at the 1 spot. I'm not sure if he's actually with us, but to run through the settings here, it is fairly simple. We're going PPR. It's a Dynasty League mock draft here. Superflex, you got 2 flex in there, 2 wide receiver, 2 running backs, and 1 IDP flex missed in there. We got, I believe I put in 8 bench spots just so we can get a little bit taste of that depth. And we're going to rattle through at 30 seconds a pick. So I'm going to start off here. Hopefully Austin will be coming on through. But he's on the clock, and we are going to start away. Joel, do you have any strategy when you're going into a Dynasty startup that you're – obviously we're all water to how the board falls, but do you go into it with a certain plan, especially when it comes to Superflex?
Specifically on Superflex, yeah, I want quarterbacks and I want them early. Like we've talked about kind of a bit on the show. I prefer to build my teams around quarterbacks and tight ends around the scarce positions. So that's where I'm going to kind of lean early. And that's what I like to do. Obviously, there's not going to be any trading in this league. So that's always a big issue. And I think we talked about that during our startup show earlier. But it should be interesting to see how this plays out, knowing that there is no trading.
Yeah, that is obviously a huge part of fantasy that is not being accounted for in mock drafts, and something that all you can do is work on your team construction. And Austin, we get to make fun of him now in the chats after. But, we got a quarterback run to start, which is everything you should expect. And here I come. The quarterbacks I like are gone, and I'm deciding between that tier. I have Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields I would love to take, and I'd love to take Justin Jefferson, who's sitting there too. I'm going to go with Lamar, given that we got that whole contract situation leveled. I want to have that quarterback advantage in a super flex. I really don't want to be going past round 3 without one, and I'm a little bit worried about what that looks like after. But at what point do you start looking at that? We have Justin Jefferson going off the board there. At what point do you not look at the quarterback? Do you think that was a good on Jefferson? Do you think I should have taken him?
For me, like 10 would be the earliest I would look at a non-quarterbacks. I've got Deshaun Watson in the top tier with the other 8. They're kind of, I think the only one that hasn't gone yet is Trevor Lawrence. So maybe I'm missing one, but yeah. So I'm 9 deep with quarterbacks. That's where I would go. At that point, I would take Justin Jefferson. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can never go wrong with those guys. And now, oh boy, that's my pal in there, Justin Mizell, going with the Bijan Robinson pick. And it's certainly a way to build your roster. Let me fix that draft board that we got popping on the screen. But yeah, we have Travis Kelce going there with Ryan. No surprise there.
No surprise at all.
Yeah, most on-brand pick so far. But listen, he's an old man. We talked about on last week's show, I believe I brought up to Joel that he had a lot of drops last year, and we're really concerned about that, right, Joel?
Yeah, the one thing we didn't talk about last week, and maybe the most important thing about Travis Kelce, is he's literally missed 3 games in 9 years, and 2 of those games were the last game of the season, so completely fantasy irrelevant. So he's the biggest difference maker at his position in the league in quite some time, actually, and he is probably the most reliable player in the league as well. So, like I said, he's one of, outside of the quarterbacks, he's probably the most valuable player relative to his position in the league by far.
Yeah, and it's nice to have the difference maker. Although I do wonder how much is that going to weigh in of you have to win now when you take Travis Kelce in the startup. Do you have that feeling? Because while you and I both expect him, we don't see any signs of a decline, so we're not going to expect him to be declining anytime soon. But when you spend a first round pick on him in a super flex, you're really expecting to be gearing that to a win now situation. So is that something that you're going to be that determines your draft strategy from round 1, doesn't it?
A bit. Yeah, I mean, he is, like I say, he is probably the easiest ticket to the playoffs that there is. So yeah, if you're taking him, then you definitely should be kind of leaning towards competing that year, because if not, you're kind of wasting him. So yeah, definitely. If I was taking him early, and if I hadn't taken a quarterback, he would be right there as the number in consideration. I would definitely be leaning towards competing this year.
Yep, and it's never a bad thing to be competing this year. Now, Austin bring a very creative auto draft roster over there of the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Dolphins stack. The CPU always knows how to build those teams. But the second round is about how we expected it to go. Probably of seeing, I think we're both surprised to see Deshaun Watson fall as far as he did there, right? I believe that's probably the pick.
A little bit, yeah.
That's the most surprising so far, short of probably Bijan in the first round. But it's something that we're looking at the board here, and we're going to see those wide receivers go. And I'm going to guess you're going to go wide receiver or quarterback. Oh, Market, you suck.
I'm going to take that tight end. Like I say, I like to build around the scarce positions.
You're You're a bad friend. Oh, that's rude. Okay. Oh, well, tilt. All right, we're on round 3 tilt over here with me. Talk me through going with the 2 quarterback tight end start while I panic pick over here.
Yeah, like I said, I prefer to build my teams around scarce positions and lock them in. So Herbert, I think in that offense with Kellen Moore coming over, I think he's going to unlock that arm, that passing offense in a way that they didn't really see last year. Dak Prescott's just steady, right? He's right around that QB 10, QB 12 every year. So no matter what Mike McCarthy says, I think he's going to be just fine. He's going to kind of do what he always does. Wish he would run more, but that's kind of not been a thing since the ankle injury. And then Mark Andrews, we'll see how that offense runs, but I don't expect him to not be the number 1 target in that offense. They've got more weapons now, but yeah, he's still the number 1 guy. He's Lamar's comfort. He's like his nookie blankie, right? That's the guy he's going to be looking for.
I could have had that
place.
Stack. I could have had that stack right there, but you just had to do it. Had to do it, Joel. But yeah, and I want to take a grand picture of this board here, and you just look at the colors and the big thing. And this is why I went Lamar, and this is why I'm sure my good pal Pete there at No Kyle Tits taking Justin Fields. And why I like going quarterback so early in my Superflex leagues is because you look at all these non-quarterbacks going off the board now, because there is such a colossal drop-off in my eyes after Dak Prescott. You're dropping to the unknowns of rookies like Bryce Young, and you're dropping to the old but gold of Kirk Cousins and, the journeyman of Jared Goff and what Daniel Jones could be, which I'm sure if Austin is going to pop up to this draft, Daniel Jones will not make it around this 4 turn. But listen, this is a serious drop where we've had after
definitely
what is that, like 10, 11 quarterbacks go off the board in the first 15 picks. And all of a sudden we've had 3 in the last 15 picks.
Yeah. And if you look at the board at this point on the quarterback board, there's Kyler Murray, who's hurt, and we don't know how much he's going to play this year. And then it's, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Geno Smith. Those guys are all the same, right? There's not a whole lot of differentiation between any. I mean, you could pick any of them and kind of have them be either the top or the bottom of that tier. So, that's why I want to get in that on the quarterback run early. I don't want to get squeezed out.
Yeah. Although I'll be, I'm looking at it right now. I don't have my QB2, and I agree that they're all very similar. Kenny Pickett had a perfect preseason drive, Joel. He
did
pretty good out there.
The Pickett to Pickens connection looked good, I guess. Yeah, I did see that highlight on Twitter.
Yes, that was certainly a Twitter highlight. JSN going there, that is a good value for JSN in my eyes, honestly.
I think so too.
How many running backs we've seen go off the board? There's a lot more running backs than I thought I would see going off the board. Are you surprised by that either? As I pick my QB2 here, I'm going to go with – this is tough. Man, I believe Geno's going to have a great year. I'm going to go Geno.
That's 3 straight Seahawks. I like it. Play into the run. I should probably make it 4, huh? I'll take my cat.
Yeah, you should. Add to it. But I also want to take a second and listen. Ryan said it himself in the chat there at Fantasy 5. Yeah, this is getting weird now because we're looking at a 2 tight end, 1 old, 1 young, and then we have 2 rookie quarterbacks rounding out the 12 team over there. Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around it myself. What is your thinking about that? Because I know you're a big fan of grabbing your guys and grabbing the difference makers at the position.
Oh, for sure.
But at some point, do you think the value just isn't there if you're not worrying about team construction? Or is that not is Dynasty, to be fair?
Yeah, I mean, it is Dynasty. And the important thing is he's drafting talent, right? He's drafting high-end talent. Like Anthony Richardson, we, kind of blew up the combine, could be the next Cam Newton, although, a better, a better player, better passer at least. He's got that upside. Like CJ Stroud could be a really good quarterback. He could be in an offense that's just going to have to throw a ton, even as a rookie, right? He may just get so much garbage time that he's still productive. We all know Kyle Pitts is a unicorn at that position. So yeah, I mean, he's taken, he's going in the right. He's going in the direction of, he's going for the boom, right? He's not worried about the bust and going for the boom. That's, you gotta respect that.
Yeah, and you absolutely do, especially when you look at who's still on the board. I mean, running back, we still have Tony Pollard out there. We still have J.K. Dobbins out there. We still have Stevenson, Derrick Henry. Wide receiver, it's a little bit more thin, but you still have alphas like, if you consider DJ Moore and and Calvin Ridley as alpha level talents, they're still out there, as well as plenty of upside rookies. So, they're, despite, not taking a running back, not taking a wide receiver yet, there are still plenty out there to round out the roster. And he has the luxury of being on the turn and double tapping that type of position where you don't have to, you can address your 2 starting wide receiver spots in one go right now if you wanted to. And that, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route that Ryan chooses to take there at the 12. And Joel ran out here taking Tony Pollard. That's a good value.
Yeah, I got to say, Austin checked into the draft just in time to take Christian Watson from me, so I'm super not happy with him. I have to take it out on him tomorrow on the mock, Joe.
That's fair. Oh man, this is difficult between my wide receivers that I really like here. I'll talk it out. It's Jerry Jeudy and Jordan Addison here. I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy. The man got a tutty the other day in preseason. Again, I don't care about preseason. I just truly believe in Jerry Jeudy being a alpha level type of talent. And Santa hopped in the chat here saying Treylon Burks is an alpha. Thanks. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Treylon Burks is an alpha. And it's funny, Joel, because I have been on record as the Garrett Wilson guy, the train, the conductor, the locomotive itself of the Garrett Wilson train. I had Treylon Burks ahead of him. I had Treylon Burks as my wide receiver 1 in last year's class, which is funny enough. It was no disrespect to Garrett Wilson, but I really like it. So if you're looking at the board here, Joel, we both have a little bit of time before our next pick. Do you have any team constructions that stand out to you?
Well, looking at mine, it's completely off brand because I drafted a running back in the 5th round. So this is kind of throwing me off a little bit. That's interesting. Like O'Brien 18 at the 2 spot goes Josh Allen and Kyler Murray. I like that a lot, right? That's with Breece Hall and Chris Olave. That's T. Higgins. That's a team that could be really, really good, either going into the playoffs or, next year. Some, question marks early with Breece coming off the injury and Kyler both coming off ACLs. So might struggle early, but might be the 800-pound gorilla in the room at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I'll point out another team here, and I hate to give them credit. And I don't love the Pittman pick, honestly, but X-Man C, it's one of my college roommates. I do like that build, and rounding out with Jordan Love as well, who both of us like on this show quite a bit. Having CeeDee Lamb and Devonta Smith is a really nice duo that's going to be both relevant this year as well as for the next 5. And Travis Etienne, the hate has gone way too far.
Way too far.
4.2 is insanity of where he's falling in drafts right now. So, jumping on that type of board and only having one running back, I like it all a lot. And I still like the talent of Pittman. I'm really worried about when Anthony Richardson's going to jump to the next level. Also at, what's it called? Let me read that name. At Christian Leo 7, you taking Dobbins from me just broke my heart as well. That was crippling, for my mental health. So thanks, buddy. But, on to you, Joel. What's it called? So we're looking it through here. Everyone's active. Everyone's picking. And I thank you guys all for it. And be sure to be hopping in and commenting in our YouTube chat as well, because that's where we can pull it up and talk a little bit more about it. I'm on the clock here, Joel. So as I do that, I'm trying to think it through. What are you thinking about for your next 2 picks? And I'll give you a jump to talk about it as you go.
I'm still in the kind of best player available mode here. And I'm, I've got a tight end, I've got a wide receiver, I've got a running back, I've got 2 quarterbacks. So I'm in position to do that. Like typically I'm willing to lean into 0 RB builds. But Pollard was just too much value there. And I was going to take Burks and you took him. So that's all right. We'll get around. Good players overcome that.
That was seamless. I won't lie. That was seamless. Well done. And I'll talk as I put you in tilt mode.
It's all good.
Happy to get Burks there. I was deciding between a few names. But again, it's what I'm talking about tiers, and that's the huge thing you talk about. I was assigned to him and Ayuk, if that makes you feel better.
Same wavelength.
Yeah, it's the big thing about tiers, and especially in Dynasty, it applies to redraft just as much. When Dobbins got taken off the board there, for me, I wasn't even looking at running back again. There was such a huge drop off for me between the running backs available and J.K. Dobbins, who went just a few picks before. You have Swift, which, there's certainly the route. You have Aaron Jones, you have Joe Mixon, you have Miles Sanders, guys that should be solid, but really have a very thin leash in terms of the long-term outlook there. And I think Dobbins is going to be around for quite some time, in my opinion, at least by running back standards. So at that point, I'm looking at a first-round draft capital wide receiver in Treylon Burks, someone I like a lot. I don't care about DeAndre Hopkins being there. And I'll just take the receiver there. There's just a lot more tread left on the tire for what could very well be a similar points per game.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of at the position now, and we talked about trading earlier. So if you're going to do a startup and you're going to be making kind of big trades to, move up, get a quarterback, whatever, we're in that area where it's really a flat tier, right? We're kind of having to dig around, and there's a bunch of guys that kind of look the same, right? Judy, Addison, you had to pick between those two, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Pittman, Burks, Ayuk, we're looking at the same guys. It's going to go around for a couple rounds. All right. So these are the names you got to consider that you should be willing to move. If you're willing to move up, you should be okay moving off a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick, or even a 4th round pick. If you're kind of toward the end, because if that's what it takes to get up and, get that second elite quarterback or something like that.
Yeah. And listen, I want to give a shout out here to Austin for someone that spent the first 3 picks on auto draft. I'm loving the way that roster is turning out, especially with how golf just went there. And now I have to look at this as we saw tight ends go off the board. I was hoping Dallas Goedert would come back around to me. So thanks for that, Gator. I know you're listening, and I want you to know you hurt me deeply. But that seems to be the theme of this draft, is hurting Mike here.
Hurting Michael Sicoli.
That seems to be the theme. I understand it, people. I do.
I will say when you set up the draft and I joined, I took the spot right next to you. Just
I know you did.
We could violate each other every other
over
round.
My head? No chance. No chance that went over my head. But yeah, I'm gonna go Zay Flowers there. I just want I want the guy that I think is going to be the next Hollywood type of role with Lamar Jackson. I get that little stack as an added bonus. And I think currently this team that I have is giving me some good flexibility to compete this year. And if it doesn't, I have more than enough pieces to reload and address it next year.
And that's the other thing, other than the trading is, when you're in these flat tiers, take your guys, right? Take the guys you want, take the guys you like. This is the team you're going to have to look at every day for the next, 6 months and into the next, into next year when trading opens again. So, or until the draft next year. So yeah, take your guy in these flat areas, in these flat tiers where there's not a whole lot separating, a big chunk of players. Go get your guys. If there's a guy you like, it doesn't matter. ADP doesn't matter at this point, right? Take your guys, build the team you want to build the team you're going to have fun playing with, the team you're going to have fun looking at every day.
Yeah, it's a huge point there. And I think in the same sense, ADP does matter, but also, listen, our show matters. We matter. We care. You listen to us. We try to help. That's what we're here for. But it's your team. So when you're deciding between 2 guys, and we might tell you one of them, if you really believe in the other guy, take the guy that you're not going to regret picking. That's always been my philosophy when I'm drafting, is take the guy that I'm not going to feel bad about if it doesn't work out, because I'm willing to be wrong about players. I'm willing to be wrong about Treylon Burks and taking him over Brandon Ayuk, who has a much more proven track record in the NFL and is far safer than taking Treylon Burks. But I'm trusting my process on what he can be in this league. But if we're looking at the rest of this league here, to get back to the draft board, quarterback certainly becoming a shy point. And listen, we have to only start 1. Obviously, you want to start 2. But at what point do you start even considering taking 3? Obviously, Ryan has taken 3 on the at the 12 spot, but he's the only person to do so. We have still the team with Gator having only 1, and I believe he's the only team with only 1 currently. But at what point do you start considering that QB3 over players that you still like? Or will you ever do that?
No. For me, as long as I've got 2, then I'm happy to kind of put it off. If I had, 1 and then kind of, didn't take one in the second, didn't get one till like the third or fourth, then I'm going to probably be a little more aggressive on getting a third. But for, I've got 2 elite ones in Herbert and, kind of a back end QB1 in Prescott. So I'm good. If somebody I liked fell, if Kyler fell to this point, Kyler's not going to fall to this point, but if someone else had fallen, then I would around the, 5th, 6th area, then I would be okay jumping on. But for now, I'm probably going to wait and just get some, I'm willing. I've got 2 guys I'm going to start every week. So I'll take the position players at this point.
Yep. And you have guys like Derek Carr, Sam Howell, and Matt Stafford, Derek Carr being more closer to that.
Yeah.
And
there's startable guys left, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. And at the same time, you look at the board, sure, Gator might be taking a quarterback at some point soon because he wants that QB2, but everyone else is also playing the same chicken game with QB3. Everyone else is waiting. It's a similar sense to IDP in that way of everyone's waiting to see who wants to go with that QB3 first, and then you might see a run. Like we're seeing right now with running back, is I actually got DeAndre Swift, which I'm very surprised DeAndre Swift is still here in the 8th round. But I am happy to be getting him here. And, we talked about preseason takeaways at the top of the show, and one of them for me, Rashad Penny was getting a lot of touches in a meaningless preseason game for somebody that we're perceiving to be, the 1B to DeAndre Swift. Meanwhile, Kenny Gainwell was confidently with the ones and didn't really play. DeAndre Swift didn't play, but Rashad Penny was given 9 carries. At what point is the Eagles backfield as murky as we think it is? That's the question I want to throw out to you.
Yes, but I wouldn't worry about the Penny thing because remember last year, you just have to go back a year and it was Josh Jacobs in the Hall of Fame game and everyone was panicking saying, oh my God, he's trying out.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm like I said, like we said earlier, I'm not going to overreact to one game. I'm not going to, put too much emphasis. It may be that, like we said, they want a coaching staff wants to get a look at them, in an extended role to see what they can do with that many carries. And so, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. But yes, I do think that backfield is murky as hell. I don't buy the Kenny Gainwell being the starter, but there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I don't either. Just because I when you think about Penny and you think about Swift, and you think about you think about Gainwell, only one of them is very different from the other, and that's Rashad Penny with his size. Kenny Gainwell and DeAndre Swift both a bit smaller, and they kind of do similar things. So that really never made sense. But it also doesn't make sense to me giving Rashad Penny, someone with his history, as many touches as they did. So I'm up on the clock here, and we have officially hit the tier that I am really not that comfortable with. But George Kittle's still here, man. And this is such an interesting draft for me. It's interesting. You said it was interesting for you because you got, a running back as early as you did, which is definitely off brand for you. This is the first time I can remember in recent memory that I've drafted DeAndre Swift and George Kittle. The ADP has been out of control in the last few months. And in my opinion, especially after seeing 2 tight ends go right after, maybe the hate has swung too far because this is a really far fall from George Kittle. We're still Michael Mayer go ahead of him.
Yeah, that's exceptionally late for him. If people are, putting some of that injury into this, I think that's putting way too much weight on that injury, especially this early in the preseason, right? He's got basically 5 weeks to get ready for the season. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. Yeah. 9th round for Kittle. That's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. If I didn't have Andrews, I probably would have jumped on that. Yeah, if this is a heavy tight end premium, obviously it wouldn't have gone. He wouldn't have lasted that long. But.
Yeah. And the thing with Kittle, and I've made so many arguments against Kittle this summer. So I don't want to be misconstrued as a true Kittle believer this year or something like that. But at this point of the draft, if he provides you with a few 4-point weeks and it really hurts you, that sucks. But if he then provides you with a 35-point week, that's something Laporta won't do. It's something that Freiermuth won't do. And it's something that Michael Mayer certainly won't do. Dalton Kincaid will not do in this year. And George Kittle can win you weeks still, even if he crushes you on others. And when this is being baked into his ADP, that's fine. This is this is what like his floor is doing what Evan Ingram did last year, right?
Geez. His floor is above that, I would hope.
Well, he had some bad. He
He did, yeah, but
especially after the McCaffrey trade, is what I'm factoring in here. Of if they are going to use him as a blocker as much as they are, if they have Debo and Ayuk healthy and CMC healthy, then his floor is probably what Evan Ingram did. But Evan Ingram didn't have a terrible year.
Evan Ingram did nothing through the first 12 weeks. 50% of his production was in a 4-week span. So
Joel, sometimes I feel like you just want to hurt me. I don't. No, I'm messing around. Yeah, no, that was not an Evan Ingram endorsement as much as it was a George Kittle one, and I think I just got auto drafted into Derwin James. That is a shame.
Somebody got auto drafted into Antonio Brown's. Things have gone off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, things have. I'm gonna get rid of Antonio Brown. Just auto draft someone else there. There we go. You get Minkah Fitzpatrick. Fantastic.
That's solid.
Okay, yeah, and I guess now is the time to be talking about IDP a little bit. So sure. I want to note, I obviously only put one IDP in here. That was because this is not an IDP draft. This is not an IDP show. This one. So I don't want to overwhelm people. But Joel, it's always a question, especially for new people. How do you approach IDP? When is the first time to take your IDP, and what positions are you looking for to do so? So, do you have any thoughts? Because I know I do.
Yeah, you're the expert, so I'll defer to you on this one. It's really important, right, to state the obvious that it depends on how many you're starting, right? So this is a one IDP, so there's going to be IDP guys on the waiver wire. So I'm not going to jump into an IDP earlier. If you're starting a full, 8-man, 10-man, 11-man IDP squad, then then I'm going to look earlier. Then it's probably going to be, when we were talking about that 5th, 6th round where the kind of the flat tier was, that's where I'm going to kind of look to the elite IDP guys.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, Derwin James would not have been my pick there. And it honestly, when it comes back around to me, I'll probably just remove it and pick as a punishment with the 10 players ish that I didn't get to pick. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head, especially when you have few IDP spots. There's no reason to take one early. But at the same time, there are difference makers, and you look at players that will be able to get sacks and tackles, and guys like Micah Parsons could have 55 tackles and 16 sacks or something insane, and we know Nick Bosa could have 15 TFLs and 17 sacks, something insane that he does every single year, and so forth. Max Crosby puts up insane tackle numbers. So you look at your scoring formats, and you look if they boost the solo tackles, if they boost the assisted tackles, and obviously what they tally for sacks. And what a lot of leagues also do, they tally in QB hits and TFLs into sacks. So 4-point sack turns into an 8-point sack because they factor in TFL scoring and QB hits as well. So definitely a lot of ways to do it. But in this format with one IDP flex, you can certainly wait on your IDPs because there are going to be a lot on the wire, especially when it's a open flex. So I am going to remove Derwin James here, take my punishment of the 10 players I wouldn't get, including any QB3 I possibly could have wanted, honestly. So that's a harsh punishment that I certainly deserve, everybody. And I'm willing to.
But I think the big point here is while you're making your pick, is IDP is so much better than just starting a team defense, right? So if you need to start with one, just to get your league on board, that's cool. Just that's a good starting point, and it gives you a feel for what players are good, and then you can kind of gradually work your way into a bigger roster of IDPs. But yeah, it's so much more fun, so much more interesting than just starting a team defense, which is almost completely random. And I mean, you really should just be streaming, right? There's only a couple every year that really matter and that are worth starting on an every week basis.
Yeah, and I can't express the fun and the feeling that goes through your head when you when you watch a linebacker just get an amazing TFL, when they make the perfect play, the perfect read, and all of a sudden that play that would normally annoy you because you might have lost 2 yards rushing if that was your fantasy piece, that might have annoyed you. That becomes a huge, awesome play for you on the defensive end. You appreciate all sides of football. And as Ryan brings up in the chat, and I really want to note this, Club Fantasy is going to be talking a little bit more IDP tomorrow on the intro to IDP draft, which is why I'm doing this so little on this one. We're going to be talking a lot more about it tomorrow. I'll be on that show as well with Ryan and Austin, so be sure to be checking
a little
in
foreshadowing
tomorrow.
there.
Yeah, a little bit. 11 a.m. EST
Nice.
tomorrow. I actually don't know if it's EST, but 11 a.m. Tomorrow.
I need to make sure I'm at my desk for that one.
Be sure to turn on notifications. That's the best way to know that when we're going live. But listen, we're coming on the back half of the draft here, Joel. And at this point, are you looking for a certain mold of player? Are you shooting purely for upside? Are you still taking a blend of both based on what your team looks like? How are you approaching these, as some people might call them, gutter pieces?
Yeah, I mean, my team is it's all good. My team is fairly well balanced. So this is a case like typically when I'm doing like the 0 RB thing, this is where I just be hammering running backs. And that's okay. That I'm comfortable doing that. But now I'm at this point, I'm just shooting for upside. And I think we bring this point up all the time. Like Ryan hammers us on the mock draft show. Make sure you're digging through the rankings, because you never know who's kind of buried in these. I'm just going to grab this real quick.
Yeah.
You never know who gets buried in these rankings, in these ADPs for the individual sites. And, it's very site dependent. So, and obviously if this was like a full draft, a real draft, I'd have everything written down and know where I'm going and stuff like that. I'd have probably spreadsheets and everything, but this is just kind of off the cuff and on the fly. So make sure you're digging deep into the player listings so you're not missing anyone. I already got violated on that on Deontay Johnson, where I totally missed him.
Yeah, and I apologize for asking you a question as soon as I went on the clock.
It's all good.
I immediately set you up to go on the clock because I picked quickly. I'm a bad friend, but there's certainly a million ways you can go with it. And Ryan brings up as well, it is 11 a.m. EST tomorrow, so 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, intro to IP show here on Club Fantasy FFL. So be sure to be subscribed on YouTube, following on Twitter, on X, and that's where we're going to be going live from. So be sure to be checking us out tomorrow if you like this IDP stuff anyway. But Joel, I'm going to ask you to take a look through the draft board. What pick has been your favorite so far? And while you do that, I'm going to pat you on the back and say yours has been, because I love you getting Khalil Herbert in what is this, the 11th round that you took him right before I took Jayden Reed, or I took Jayden Reed right before that because no, you took him before. But listen, Khalil Herbert, I'm becoming more convinced by the day that he is going to be the guy in Chicago. I feel like I might have been overvaluing D'Onta Foreman's role this entire offseason, given what he was able to do in that second half of the year with Carolina. But Khalil Herbert's a good player. He always has been. He might have his limitations in the passing game, but he certainly can grow in that regard. So I really do like what Khalil Herbert can do. And when you're drafting him as late as this, in the same round as Tank Bigsby and A.J. Dillon and even Dalvin Cook, what's the risk? I mean, the risk is that, it doesn't work out, but the ceiling, you can get an RB2 at this price. Tank Bigsby won't be unless Etienne gets hurt. A.J. Dillon won't
you're on the clock,
unless Aaron Jones gets hurt. Dalvin Cook, maybe it works out in Miami, but it's a total crapshoot with him right now. Khalil Herbert just has a much greater ride there, and I just got all drafted again, didn't I? As I watched
James back.
I suck. Hold on, Pete. Hold on. Damn it. Wait. I'm going to rattle this one in. I was going on no. This is off the rails. Oh, let me fix that real quick. Not Derwin. I was in a very passionate rant, man. I was in my zone. Let me just take screw it. I love my guy Tyjae Spears. I'm taking the back-to-back Titans players. On to you, Matt Miller. I love you, man. But yeah, Tyjae Spears, who also looked really good again, despite years slander.
Do you have an ACL yet?
No. All right, Joel. It's really good out there. Looks great.
So back to Khalil Herbert, right? And you talked about D'Onta Foreman, and I think we talked about this when we talked about the Bears on the preview show. They're really the same player, right? And Herbert's the one that this staff and the organization has familiarity with. So I expect he's going to be the one to kind of keep that job. I was never a big Roschon Johnson fan as a prospect. So I think he's going to get that job. I wrote about him last year as he was kind of like my sleeper going into last year. Injuries kind of took that shine away, but he got enough run to kind of make you think that the staff likes him, and he was good, right? He kind of outperformed Montgomery. Thank you. Analytically. So I do think that is going to be his backfield primarily, and to get him in the 11th round, cannot complain about that. He's my third RB behind Pollard and Jones. Like typically for my builds, he's probably my second, sometimes my first RB, but yeah, I like that pick as a third back.
Yeah, and now I'm about to go on the clock here. Gator brought up in the chat that I'll bring up in a second that I should have faced a punishment for my second auto draft. And honestly, sir, you're 100% correct. I deserve. I don't know what I deserve. Joel, can you come up with a fantasy punishment for me?
I was going to say it's a family show, so we can't make you pound shots or anything like that.
No, maybe I'll shotgun a non-alcoholic seltzer. Maybe that's as raunchy as we can get. It is the after party, man. It is the after party. That is true. God, I don't love this. Yeah, we are getting into the weeds here with certain players that I like, and I'm just going with the talent there in Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I'm shooting for upside with Rashad Penny.
Yeah,
maybe if I can get like 6-7 weeks of him healthy, that's probably good at this point, right? That's all I can ask for.
Yeah, and I will.
Hopefully those are bye weeks.
Yeah, and Ryan with a sympathetic comment there, and I really appreciate it. Hosting and drafting is hard. It is a little bit tricky. But I will throw this out as well. This round, if in this format where it's one IDP and you could stream today's, this is when I'll be on this turn. I'll foreshadow. This is when I'll be looking at IDPs because there are still difference makers among the defensive players, even in one where you're only starting 12 each week, because among the entire league, because there are difference makers there. And now I'm deciding between players and running backs and wide receivers that I frankly don't really care that much about. And I like Darnell Mooney. He's cool, but I'd rather have my top defensive player over my wide receiver 8 on my roster right now, or something along those lines. And on cue, Nick Bolton goes off the board there. Our first real IDP pick. No disrespect to your Jaquan Brisker pick before. I believe it was an auto draft, but TJ Watt going after that. Everyone's paying attention now. We're going to IDP round coming up here.
I was just looking for TJ Watt, and there he pops up. So, yeah, there's some guys here that I would definitely like. I'm going to take one more offensive player who I think has some upside. In that I think he can be kind of the alpha in that offense, and Nico Collins.
Yeah, I'm just going to take my guy here at Max Crosby.
Oh yeah, that's a solid pick.
The man nearly had. Listen, he's got some decent odds to be. That big dude out there. In terms of huge tackle numbers that he puts up every year, and he can definitely improve upon his 12 sacks last year. But yeah, Deuce Vaughn going off the board there. That is an auto draft, but he had a nice little preseason debut. The little joystick.
He had some nice Twitter highlights, right?
Yeah, listen, man, this is the time. Preseason is a different. Like I got through training camp highlight clips and I was like, all right, I'm stronger now. I'm stronger than I was a year ago. And preseason has just brought me right back down to the muck. I feel like I'm back in high school giggling over the waiver wire guy that I picked up who won't be on my roster in a week. It's a true challenge.
Yeah, it is. I apologize. I can't remember who it was put something on Twitter that said, preseason games are like complaining about the appetizer when you haven't eaten in 6 months and the food is on the way.
Yeah.
Just an insanely great point.
Yeah. It's well said. Micah Parsons going off there. That is exactly what I was considering versus Max Crosby, as well as I believe Nick Bosa is still out there, which again is why you can wait on your IDPs in a one IDP flex type of format, even in Dynasty. But
he is holding out, so that may drop his ADP.
Yeah, that is a factor. Although that situation I'm treating the same way I'm treating Quinnen Williams. Of that deal is going to get done. There's no world the 49ers will be out on week 1 without Nick Bosa, because that is a very different very different 49ers.
Yeah, basically, whatever salary cap moves they've made to create space was done with him in mind. So yeah, that's going to get done.
Yeah, they'll do whatever they need to. But heading into the last 2 rounds here, Joel, I'm going to ask you to once we get through this, we'll make our picks, and I want to start scanning through these rosters and seeing some of these constructions. I'll zoom out this screen so we can talk it through for the last 10 minutes of the show. A lot of different roster builds, and I really love everybody. But thank you guys for tuning in and certainly throwing all this out, because my favorite part about doing this with real people is we get to see so many different strategies here. We get to see so many different approaches of Ryan starting off with quarterback, tight end, quarterback, and how it's just littered his roster with receivers after that and has gotten some decent values doing just that. And then you got other rosters doing, RB heavy at first, which was Team 10 before my pal timed out, and so forth. There's so many different ways you can build a fantasy roster. And I'll get philosophical here and teary-eyed, so I won't do that. But last few rounds here, you're taking Trey Lance. Man, what is your temperature on Trey Lance right now? Let's talk about that. This is round as I go to make a pick. This is round 17 in a Superflex Dynasty league. He is probably the QB 35 off the board or something like that. What's going through your head when you just click that button?
So here's the thing, right? He was super talented, and this applies to like all these young quarterbacks, particularly from small schools, right? So Jordan Love, Malik Willis, maybe even Zach Wilson, right? These guys take time to develop, right? Quarterback in the NFL, it's like a golf swing, right? There's a lot of moving parts, and you've got to rep it so many times that it just becomes automatic. And these guys, they probably haven't had great coaching in college. They're probably getting like legit, real quarterback coaching for the first time once they got to the league. So it shouldn't be a surprise that they struggle early, that they take time to develop. So yeah, I don't even need like Trey Lance. His development has been so stunted because of injuries. It's not fair to say he's bad at this point, right? The talent is still there. It's just a question of, can he put it all together? And I don't think he's had enough time, right? And we've kind of seen that with Jordan Love, right? Where he was a mess for 2 years. Last year kind of got, Tom Clements come in, who was Aaron Rodgers' old quarterback coach when he started for the first time. And it made noticeable improvements. And now we're seeing a quarterback develop into a legitimate NFL starter. So not everyone is Justin Herbert. Not everyone is Joe Burrow, where they just come out in year one and take the league by storm. It doesn't work that way. Patrick Mahomes sat for an entire year. These guys need time to develop. So it's silly to kind of just write them off as being bad players. They may be, you never know. But in round 17, I'm willing to take a chance on that upside.
Zero risk. Yeah, and as Ryan puts out perfectly, it's an old adage in fantasy football and very well put. Listen, QBs will never be cheaper than in your draft, because as soon as we leave this draft board, boom, the market explodes. Everybody wants a quarterback, but nobody wants to give one, which means the price goes up faster than And
what happens if we wake up tomorrow and Brock Purdy kind of blew out his elbow again? Right? Then Trey Lance is the starter. You cannot convince me that it's going to be Sam Darnold. Not wishing anything on him.
Make the argument. Mr. Sam Darnold. You want to talk about a quarterback that hasn't exactly come to form yet? Maybe some things have set him aside, some organizational failures. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's like 25 years old, by the way. I don't think that's right, actually. But he's like 28, 25. It's crazy how young he is. I looked it up the other day because me and the Jet fans in New York are still honestly supportive of him, which is awesome. Yeah. He's 26 years old. He turned 26 a month ago.
Right. So, and he's had opportunities, and he came from USC. So I would expect he probably got pretty decent coaching there.
In college. Yeah. In college.
But I'm talking about the small school guys. Like Lance went to North Dakota State. Sure. Jordan Love went to Utah State.
Yeah.
Malik Willis went to Liberty, where Hugh Freeze was actively screwing him out of any development by running a high school offense and rant. These small school guys, they need time to develop. They need legitimate NFL coaching, and we shouldn't hold it against them. If people are off saying Malik Willis is terrible, we went into the year last year saying he needs a redshirt season. And just because he had to play, he was forced into playing and looked like a not ready rookie. That's what we expected. That's legitimately what everyone expected to be from him.
He was thrown into an offense built around Ryan Tannehill, which is not the same playing style,
right?
With zero weapons around him, like late in the year, it was ridiculous. But yeah, back to the draft. That's a great point with Trey Lance, though. Joel, just run through your team for me and your thought process for it. I'll highlight it here. Run through your thoughts for me.
So yeah, again, I like as I mentioned previously, I like building around scarce positions. So quarterback and tight end, which I did. I love Justin Herbert. I don't think anybody expects him to have the season he had last year. I think everyone thinks he's going to bounce back. Prescott is very steady, kind of back end QB1. Andrews, we'll see how that offense looks. But again, I think he's still going to be the number one option there. DK Metcalf he's probably never going to be the guy we thought he was or could be in his second season. He's just going to be good, especially with JSN coming in there now, which I think is probably going to take some shine off of him. But he's still right in that tier of kind of back end wide receiver 1, top end wide receiver 2. Pollard was just kind of too much value. I don't know what his situation is next year. I don't care. He's going to be really good this year, assuming he can stay healthy. And they have not brought anybody in, right? We talked about that earlier in the show. He has no competition at this point. It's Malik Davis and like Rico Dowdell or something. At this point, he is the bell cow. Well, sure.
Yeah, but Mike McCarthy loves him. That's really all you need to know about him.
So yeah, he's going to be productive this year. Ayuk. Then we get that flat tier, right? The Ayuks, the Coopers, the Treylon Burks, all those guys kind of belong in there. Aaron Jones is one of those guys who is one of those running backs who you can get for kind of less than a first, more than a second at any given time because he's still going to be productive. But everybody perpetually expects this to be his last year, and he'll probably keep going for a couple more years. But so yeah, I like Mike Williams as a fourth receiver. Right now, I'm not relying on him to be out there every week, so that's a great spot for him. Plus, I've got Justin Herbert. I'm not huge on stacking, but I'm fine with that. And then it's the backups, right? I got Likely in case Andrews goes out because I think he's. We talked about that. He may be that may be the best tight end tandem since Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, depending on how that offense shakes out. And Derek Carr, I'm fine with Derek Carr as my third quarterback. He disappointed me last year. I took Scott Fishbowl and he really kind of killed me. But so I'm sure, and this year I've been totally off of him, so I'm sure he'll probably come back and have a great season. But I'm pretty happy with this build. I think this is a build that can contend, assuming everyone stays healthy.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I love the value you got on Cooper, and like I mentioned before, on Khalil Herbert for sure. I want to touch on a couple of the other teams before we go through. I'm going to quickly run through my own with the Lamar Jackson, Geno Smith quarterback setup there. Amon-Ra was an easy pick for me. Jahmyr Gibbs was also a solid one. If I'm going to take a running back early, he better be on that rookie deal. In the first 3 rounds, especially in my eyes. I love Jerry Jeudy. I'm fine with him as my wide receiver 2. I'm taking a pair of upsides with Treylon Burks and Zay Flowers. I like Jaden Reed quite a lot, but it feels a little bit uneasy not having any steadiness at my wide receiver 3 role right now. I expect Treylon Burks to be great, but he hasn't really shown it yet. Zay Flowers is a rookie. Jaden Reed's a rookie. Darnell Mooney's the wide receiver 2 at best for the Chicago Bears and so forth. So I probably would have.
That's a good place to have dart throws, right?
Yes,
and that's wide receiver 3 and not your wide receiver 1. So that's
yes, and that's why I'm fine doing it. Because I'm shooting for upside, especially in this league where I'm not forced to start 3 wide receivers. It's only 2, so I could fill that out any other way. I like the value I got with Swift and Kittle. Antonio Gibson is someone that, listen, maybe Bieniemy can make it work there, and I just like my guy Tyjae Spears. Love him as a talent. I think it'll eventually work out. Do any of these other rosters stand out to you? I especially want to talk about Gators and Ryans at the end, especially how crazy Ryan started and how what's it called? How attentive Gator's been in the chat as well. Let's start with Gator. What are your any thoughts on that team build there? Getting 4 quarterbacks in McConnell at the end, I like as well, especially with the Garoppolo pick. You got your 2 tight ends. It's a pretty well-rounded team build. Start off with taking 2 running backs in the first 5 rounds and then waiting until the 16th to take another one. I'm sure that's right up your alley.
Yeah, so like we talked about my discomfort level with not taking a QB early. But if you're not gonna, this is the way to do it, right? Just build up all the high upside guys: Taylor, Cup, Adams, Henry. Like these are all league winners. Dallas Goedert as a tight end. So yeah, this team, if he gets like production from that second QB spot, and I like Garoppolo, I think he's going to be just fine there. TJ Watt in his IDP spot.
Oh yeah,
those are all difference makers, right? This is a team that could absolutely smash if assuming that second QB spot comes through.
Yeah, and I think if you're gonna wait on quarterback, I think that's the way I want to do it because Garoppolo. Listen, we don't love Garoppolo, but he could be he could be 12 points a week if you need to. And honestly, that's not great.
And you get a stack with Davante, so that's nice.
Yeah, and you get that stack. You have the upside of Howell, who, listen, I'm a big Howell guy, so I hope that works out. So I like the way to approach that there, and I really love the dart throw of Aiden O'Connell at the end there. Let's talk about Ryan's team before we round out today's show. Doesn't take a receiver until round 8, but he gets the value of Deebo Samuel there, and then pretty much takes wide receivers from then on out, with the exception of Dave Montgomery, Elijah Mitchell, Roquan Smith, and Will Levis. So kind of the inverse of it's a very interesting build. I can't tell if this is something that you would love or you would hate, Joel. So fill me in on your thoughts.
I love the uniqueness of it, right? And if you're picking at the turn, sometimes that's what you got to do. You just got to go get your guys. And so, and some people are not comfortable picking at the turn, right? So that's kind of a contention point. And I hear these questions about if you could pick your draft spot, where would you go? It's not about the players; it's about your comfort level and with where you're drafting, right? And if you're like, I like drafting on the turn, because then I feel like I can dictate the drafts around me. If you're someone who's not comfortable, knowing that there's going to be 20 some picks before you go again, and there's just going to be a bunch of guys that you like they're going to go, then stay in the middle. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Ryan, for being on the end, he got his guys right. I love that. It's just go get your guys, build your team in a non-traditional way, and see how it turns out. He's still got Ramondre in the 5th, which could be a smash. He's got 2 potentially elite tight ends. He's got 2 quarterbacks who could be great for the next 15 years. So yeah, he got Deebo as wide receiver 1. Not ideal, but he got Deebo in the 8th round. So yeah. Right. Like if I hadn't taken Ayuk, I probably would have taken Deebo in the 7th. When I
was also looking at him around that same level.
So yeah, I mean that was really the only difference maker there is I didn't want to double up on on that offense. Or those wide receivers. Got David Montgomery in the 9th, who we both love. D-Hop at the 10th. So yeah, it's not a build that you kind of look into a draft. This probably wasn't your strategy going in, but I love how it turned out.
Yeah, listen, it's the type of roster that gives you a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different things. The Kelsey pick will help you compete this year, but you have plenty of youth at other positions to pivot out of that if you wanted to. You have the young quarterbacks. You have Kyle Pitts. You can make the different types of move. And, as Gator just put in the chat, that's why you stay water. Because, listen, I was put on till this different time. That's also why you do mock drafts. Because the more mock drafts you do, the more shows you tune into, the more comfortable you are during
Dynasty. Drafts. You can always just go trade for your guys, right? You can always make – this isn't redraft where trades never happen. This is Dynasty where trades happen all the time. Go trade for your guys.
God bless Dynasty. This is the Dynasty after party. That's where it's supposed to be. And thank you all for tuning in. This has been an incredible show, very interactive, amazing people in the mock draft, and special thanks to the people in the mock draft as well as the people in the chat, because this show wouldn't be as good as it is without you guys. So thank you so much. I want to round
out for joining.
Yeah, you emphasize that 100%. You can follow myself at Michael__Sicoli on Twitter. You can follow Joel here at the Joel Wirth. And of course, Club Fantasy FFL at Club Fantasy FFL on Twitter, YouTube, all of the ones that you want to be using on social media. And as Ryan said in the chat midway through the show, IDP show tomorrow. Intro to it at 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow on Club Fantasy FFL. So be sure to be checking that out because I'll be hopping on that one and it'll be a blast, especially if you're new to IDP. Listen, put your toes in the water during the summer. That's the time to do it, Joel, right? That's
for sure. Also, Women of Fantasy Week 2 this week. Another couple awesome jersey giveaways. Justin Jefferson and Adrian Peterson.
I believe those raffles are still open, Joel.
Yeah, up until
they are. So be sure to
until right before the show. So 5 o'clock.
So be sure to buy some raffles out there. Of course, you can follow Women Fans Football on Twitter by searching up exactly that. And buy yourself some raffle tickets. I know I have because I want some of those amazing prizes and I want to support an amazing org. So next week, we're going to be talking about more preseason things and some other things that I'm sure we'll decide on at a later point. But for myself and Joel and for all of Club Fantasy, thank you all for tuning in. Remember, Dynasty is like a disco ball, keeps on spinning year-round. So join the club every Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern right here on Club Fantasy. Have a good night and